Bro, I need an honest review of the iPhone 16 versus the 16 Pro. Other reviews are way too confusing with too many technical details. How about I just give you my no-nonsense review and tell you in simple English the features which matter, what they mean for you and your hard-earned money. Bro, if you can actually do that, I'll happily like the video, subscribe to the channel and leave you some love in the comments. Oh, and by the way, if you believe my review, then you can probably save yourself $200 a pound or 50,000 rupees by the end of this conversation. What? Why is that? Because there's literally one reason why people should get the Pro version this year and everyone else is throwing their money down the toilet. What is it? But for that, we first have to understand these phones, what the difference is between them, and which of those differences actually matter. Instead of making me try and watch the whole video and lose interest halfway, why don't you just give me the punchline right now? What's the summary? Okay, here it is. The iPhone 16 series is Apple's latest and greatest iPhone launched in 2024, and the regular iPhone 16 model starts at $800 a pound or about 80,000 rupees in India. By comparison, the 16 Pro is priced at about $1,000 a pound or a crazy 1,35,000 rupees in India. Wow, so it's 25% more expensive in the US and the UK, but close to 70% more in India. That's nuts. Yeah, it's some strange pricing that Apple always does in India. By the way, you can add another $100 a pound to either model or 10 to 15,000 rupees in India and get the bigger size, which they call the Plus or the Pro Max. Right. Now, let's talk about what separates these two phones. The iPhone 16 Pro has 5 key differences versus the iPhone 16 regular. First up is the display. The screen size on the Pro is very slightly bigger at 6.3 inches versus the 6.1 on the regular. The Pro is also slightly heavier, and the Pro's display is an always-on display with 120 Hz refresh rate versus the regular, which is somehow, even in 2024, still at 60 Hz. Second is the construction material. The Pro uses a more durable and premium titanium material instead of the aluminum that the regular uses. Third is the processor. The Pro has a faster A18 Pro processor versus the regular A18 in the iPhone regular. Fourth are the cameras. The Pro has 3 cameras instead of the 2 on the regular. The Pro has an additional 5x optical zoom lens, and it also has a better 48 megapixel ultra wide lens, that is the one which zooms out, versus the regular 12 megapixels you get on the ultra wide on the iPhone 16 regular. And finally, fifth are the colors. The regular comes with honestly funner colors like teal and ultramarine and pink, whilst the Pro has the more corporate slick colors like black and white and a couple of silvery brown titaniums. That's a pretty useful summary, bro. I don't think I've ever seen that anywhere. And all this sounds great, but does it really matter? I mean, for example, what impact does the A18 Pro processor have on my daily life versus the A18 that I get in the regular iPhone 16? Is it really worth paying for? Okay, this is where the story gets really mysterious. I was very surprised by what I found when I looked at these features in detail, and let's go through them one by one. First is the screen size. Of course, bigger is better, but the difference here is pretty marginal, and unless you lay them next to each other, you aren't going to notice the difference. And the bigger size also comes with more weight. But bro, I like a bigger screen. Isn't this a positive? I know it sounds counterintuitive, but no. I mean, if you want a bigger screen, you should just buy the bigger size called the iPhone 16 Plus, which of course costs another $100. The 6.3 inch versus 6.1 inch difference in the smaller sizes, in my opinion, is actually a negative. Most people who buy a smaller phone want a smaller phone. If they wanted a bigger phone, they would just go for the bigger phone. Fair enough. What about the second difference, the material? That's an interesting one. The titanium is definitely more premium looking and more robust. No two ways about it. So if you use your phone caseless, it's a good thing. But the aluminum looks great as well, and the iPhone's already a very durable phone. So if you use your phone with a case, this is not going to matter at all. And if you don't use a case, just be careful. So the Pro is actually better on this one? Well, it depends on how you look at it. On the one hand, more durable material is better. But on the other hand, unless you want the more standard black and white colors, which mind you look great by the way, they're very slick and corporate, but for many people who are looking at a more colorful phone that associates with their identity, the regular 16 just has way more fun color options that the Pro doesn't. Okay, they do look more fun. But what about the processor? Isn't that much better on the Pro? Okay, so the Antutu benchmark say... Bro, please don't start with the Antutu scores. I don't understand any of this. Okay, forget the benchmarks. But look, here's the summary. The performance of the two phones in everyday use is virtually the same. Even on the benchmarks, the CPU and GPU are just a few percentage points faster. The only people who are going to really care about this difference would be super pro gamers. No one who's serious about gaming games on the iPhone, bro. Yeah, unless the game you're pro at is like Candy Crush. In which case, you can just buy an iPhone 11 and that should be fine. Okay, so let's talk about the camera. Yes, the thing that's obviously the big difference between the phones, right? Right? Kind of. Okay, look, on paper, yes, it's pretty different. And obviously, money is not a concern and you take a lot of photos. Of course, why not splurge and get the Pro with the 48 megapixel ultra wide and the extra zoom lens and the LiDAR scanner, which improves the macro photography just a little bit. Exactly. But look, the more common things you'll do is just take photographs in the night. And on the main lens, again, they look pretty similar on both the cameras. But what about the ultra wide? It's a higher megapixel camera, right? Okay, bro, so the megapixels don't necessarily determine how good a photograph is. It determines how much detail there is in the photograph that you can blow up. So even with 48 megapixel cameras, most phones actually shoot in default at 12 megapixels to save storage space. Because it doesn't make any difference to the quality of the shot when viewed on your phone or even on a computer. Oh, so then the Pro is not much better. In real world testing, the ultra wide photos on both these phones also look pretty much the same. Now the 5x zoom lens is of course a meaningful addition on the Pro. It does help for long distance shots, but also you can take zoomed in portrait shots and product shots, which is pretty useful. Okay, but is it worth the price difference? Look, if you ask me, for the everyday user, no. For super pro users who are content creators like me, maybe. Why not? For the everyday user, you aren't going to notice the slightly better background separation, the slightly better treatment of shadows in the photographs. And yes, you won't be able to take portrait shots at night, but that's not a very common use case and definitely not worth £200 or 50,000 rupees. The zoom lens is handy, but even the regular iPhone 16 gives you 2x zoom by cropping the pictures at the same resolution. So you're basically only losing out on the 3 to 5x zoom. But you have to decide how often you do that and whether it's worth the price difference. Okay, but what if I'm a pro photographer? Dude, if you're a pro photographer, then you probably have a pro camera you use for portrait photography and the iPhone is your supplementary camera. The main lens on the iPhone is always so much better than the telephoto that if you're a serious photographer doing portrait shots, you won't want to zoom in. You'll actually rather walk up closer to your subject and use the main lens. I never thought about this. What's the real use case for 5x zoom portrait shots? The use case is that your cat is in the next room and you want to post on Instagram, but you're too lazy to get up and walk the 5 steps across there. Okay, I'm offended on behalf of all lazy people. But okay, are you saying the Pro is not worth it then? Look, I'm not saying you shouldn't buy one. If the extra cash is not a big deal and you like taking the highest quality photos, then by all means. But all I'm saying is this year, the difference in taking photographs isn't that much. What about video though? Okay, so on the video, let's talk about what's similar first. Both can shoot video at 4K at 60 frames per second. They both have cinematic mode, which looks great. Both have Apple's super useful audio mix feature where you can remove wind noise and enhance the voice and things like that. But let's look at the differences. The first one is the audio quality on the 16 Pro because it has a 4 mix array of mics and sounds much better. Wow, this would matter a lot for content creators, especially vloggers and even casual video makers, right? Yeah, and what's more, if you edit your videos in the post, then only the Pro can shoot in Apple Log ProRes, which produces the flat file that can be edited and color graded later. And finally, only the 16 Pro can shoot at 4K at 120 frames per second, which will give you that nice, super smooth, slow motion footage. Got it. So you'd say that if you're a vlogger or a serious content creator who records audio footage and edits iPhone footage, then you should buy the Pro. Yes, that combined with the zoom lens might make the case to spend the extra £200. What about battery life? Pretty similar on both, and you get a full day of use on one charge. And by the way, they also have the same charging speed. You get to about 50% in 30 minutes. Got it. So let me see if I get where we ended up. You're basically saying that there's just one good reason to get the iPhone 16 Pro over the 16, and that's if you really care about the marginal camera improvements that most people don't use. If you want specifically the 5x zoom or the ability to shoot 4K, 120 FPS in Apple Log ProRes or the 120Hz refresh rate on the screen. Most likely, if you want that, you're going to be some kind of pro content creator or photographer. But for most people, the better decision this year is to buy the regular iPhone 16. Yes, that's exactly right. And just to be clear, don't think of this as a downgrade. Think of it as a great deal. For once, Apple has given users almost everything they could want in the base version and not kept the best features for the Pro version. That's a good thing. And I always say that phones are so similar nowadays that instead of upgrading from the 15 to the 16 or the 16 to the 16 Pro, use that extra money instead on Apple devices that are amazing and complement your phone experience, like the incredible AirPods Pro 2, which are so good it's almost impossible to explain. Okay, give it a try. I did. I'll leave a link to that video up here. See you there.